Okay, who's ready for family movie night?
Family movies are an underserved genre. Now, I'm not talking about fully animated movies like Kung Fu Panda from a few months ago. I'm talking about films like last year's Wonka, films that appeal to adults and older kids alike. It seems like we used to get more of these in the theaters, but not recently. Most of these are released directly to Netflix or Disney, and they're generally pretty forgettable. That changed, however, with the release of If this past weekend, our first big-budget family theatrical release of 2024. Written and directed by John Krasinski of The Office and A Quiet Place fame. And starring Ryan Reynolds of, Turn On Anything. He's in a lot of things. So, what do we have here? Is this a movie that's fun and appealing for the whole family? A movie that deserves a theatrical release? Or was this one of those movies that probably should have just been released on streaming, watched once, and forgotten? Well, before we answer that, let's talk a little bit about the plot to the movie If.
Let's talk.
So here we find Bea. She's a 12-year-old girl. She moves into her grandmother's apartment in New York City while her father waits to have heart surgery in the same hospital where her mother unfortunately died a few years earlier of cancer. Now, one night, Bea goes out to buy a charger for her mother's old camcorder, and she sees a strange creature. She follows it back to her grandmother's building, but then loses it. The next day, she sees the creature again, accompanied by a man. Bea follows them to a nearby house where the man, Cal, retrieves a large, furry, purple creature named Blue. She also meets the other creature, a butterfly-like being named Blossom, and she faints. She awakens in Cal's apartment, where she learns that he has been working with imaginary friends, nicknamed Ifs, to place them with new children, as their original children have grown up and forgotten them. Because each child who has actually created these imaginary friends brings them to life. Initially reluctant, Bea eventually decides to help Cal place imaginary friends with new people to love them. So let's start with what works here. Your main cast of Bea and Cal are played by Callie Fleming and Ryan Reynolds. Now, I will admit I'm a big fan of Reynolds. Yes, I know he basically plays the same role in every movie. Ryan Reynolds always plays Ryan Reynolds. But his combination of humor and low-key snark work really well here. Callie Fleming, however, is the star of the show. You might know her as Judith from The Walking Dead, a character that I was really not a fan of. But she shines here as 12-year-old Bea. She brings a combination youthful innocence and child who has gone through a lot, alive on screen, and more than holds her own with the veteran Reynolds. Krasinski and Fleming also work well together as father and daughter, showing an easy bond between two people who have suffered tremendous loss. Kudos also to Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Steve Carell for their great voice-over work as Blossom and Blue. Lastly, Krasinski does a good job of directing and setting up his shots. Plus, the marriage of live action and cartoon effects never comes across as chunky, clunky, or cheap.
Okay, that's great.
Now, that's not to say there isn't problems here. It starts out strong enough, but it spends a lot of time setting up its story. So by the time you get towards, near the end, it feels like it rushes itself a bit. And you could definitely feel it. And you could feel it from the crowd, too. These are the parts of the film where the kids in the crowd, they started getting a little bit antsy. And there are so many imaginary friends in this movie that it's hard to keep track of them. And finally, I feel like there were just few too many of the ideas in this movie. It's like Krasinski had all these thoughts and tried to squeeze them onto the film. And at times they worked, but at other times they didn't. But honestly, none of that really takes away from what is a decent, wholesome, and heartfelt film. Look, I do not know if is what I'd call a potential classic. But as far as entertaining fantasy fare with a heart, it won me over. While it may not break new ground in storytelling, its strong performances, charming characters, and beautiful visuals make it a worthwhile watch. There's a good balance between drama and fun in the movie, and it makes it more realistic. And Krasinski does a good job of combining both aspects. I definitely recommend it for adults with kids who may be too old for full animation, but still a bit too young for live action drama.
I recommend it.
Well, that's it for me this week. Tune in next week where I give you my thoughts and feelings on whatever I've seen. In the meantime, click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, share this video with friends and enemies alike. And as always, thank you for giving me your valuable time, and I'll see you next week. Take care.